Hi everyone, here's Hedy again. I'm going to be making for you today Italian cookies that are usually made on the holidays. Some people call them Taralles, some people call them Anginetti, but whatever you call them, they're delicious. So what I have here is 4 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour, a cup of sugar, 2 sticks of butter melted, 6 eggs beaten, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 3 tablespoons of baking powder. And we're going to use a teaspoon of salt. So what I'm going to do here is put the baking powder and the half a teaspoon of salt, mix it together, and then I'm going to sift it. Makes it light and airy. So we're going to sift it here. Told myself I was going to get one of those new sifters that are round. They look like a pie pan, but it's circular and a lot easier, I guess, to sift. I'll give it a shot. I try new things all the time. My kids tell me that I'm the gadget lady. I have so many gadgets, but I like trying new things. Hey, you never know. I watch the Food Channel. I watch videos on YouTube on how to make things. You learn new things all the time. So what I'm going to do is take the 6 eggs and put it in a mixer. You could use a hand mixer. You can even do this by hand if you want to. Sometimes I feel it's even better to do it by hand, but with all these new modern inventions, why not? So I'm putting 6 slightly beaten eggs into the blender. The mixer. I'm gonna add the 2 sticks of melted butter, and it's kind of cooled now, which is good. And the 1 cup of sugar. And the teaspoon of vanilla. Now I'm going to mix them until they're well mixed.
Where did you learn to make this?
I learned myself. My family never made it. My family wasn't much of bakers. My mother, the only thing she ever baked was the pastilla that I gave the recipe one of the other videos, but that's not exactly how she made it. I improved it over the years. So now, as this is mixing, you heard my son in the background. He likes to ask questions because he feels that the people who are watching have the same types of questions. Is that correct?
Yes. I also wanted to say that your grandkids call them sprinkle cookies.
Well, that's the second stage. After they come out of the oven, we cool them and then we put a light glaze with sprinkles. Okay, so it's mixing there, and I'm going to lower the speed a little bit because I'm going to add the flour a little bit at a time.
Well, that's all. Speak louder.
Okay.
You can tell them what I said. I told her
He
to
said
speak
to
louder.
speak louder, that you may not hear me because the mix is going.
You're usually
Do you hear me now?
You're usually funny loud. Don't
Can you
worry.
hear me now? I sound like a commercial for Verizon. All right, so I'm going to put the flour in a little at a time. Now this dough is going to be very sticky. Don't be tempted to add more flour, because if you add more flour, they're not going to be as light and fluffy as they're supposed to be. You can also make a half a batch if you want. This batch is going to make like 5, 6 dozen cookies, depending on the size you make them. You can see how sticky it is. Now, what I'm going to do is when I go to make the cookies and put them on the cookie sheet, I use a ice cream scooper. I use a small one because they do grow. You can make them as small or as large as you like. So that's it. I'll be back when it's ready to bake. Okay, so my oven is heated. I preheated at 350. I have Silpats, which I use for all my cookies. If you don't have a Silpat, all you have to do is just grease the pan or spray it with the baking spray. But I like the Silpats because they come right up. So I take, this is a small scooper. The cookies grow. If you want them bigger, you can make them bigger, but I don't like them too big. So I usually make them this size. And you have to put them a couple of inches in between because they grow and they spread. Don't put any extra flour in the batch, as I said before. It'll make them harder. These come out light and airy. And when I put them in the oven, I did this size, I bake it about 11, 12 minutes. When the bottom starts to get a little brown, they're done. Don't wait for them to get totally brown. They'll be very hard and they won't be light. So I'm gonna make this batch, make this tray. And by the way, I wanna mention again our website, The Wanted Teas. I have an apron. This is a quote that I made. But we have lots of teas. And here is one of the teas that my son made. Can you read that? If you tell me if you recognize what movie that quote is from. It's his original design.
It's an old movie.
80s movie.
1980s.
Yeah, an 80s
Early
movie.
80s.
Okay, I'm gonna scoop all of these out, and when I take them out, I'll show you what color they should be. Okay, so I've put a dozen on the sheet and spaced them accordingly. As I said, it's gonna grow a little bit. And so I'm gonna put it in the oven. I'm gonna take it out after 11 minutes. This way you could see if it needs another minute, you could put it back in. It's always to take it out a little early than to leave it in too long and they get brown and they get hard. So I'm gonna put these in and time it for 11 minutes, and when it's done, I'll show you what they look like. Okay, so these have been in the oven for 11 minutes. This was on the top rack, so they're a little bit more. So they're okay, but I like these better. You can see the bottom is brown and the top is nice and clear, and they'll be lighter. These are okay, but I'd rather do one tray at a time then. The top rack makes them browner. Now you have to also take into consideration that if you make the cookies bigger, you're gonna have to cook them a little longer. So I would start at 12 minutes. If you don't like them this big and you make them smaller, then you have to take off a minute or so. But I'm gonna take these out, then I'll let them cool. And when all the cookies are done and cooled, I'll show you how I frost them. Delicious. You can have them without the frosting if you like. But my son, especially my son Arthur, he likes to do double dipping on the frosting. And the kids love the sprinkles. They call them sprinkle cookies, as my son said.
I'd recommend the icing.
What?
I'd recommend the icing.
Oh yes. Well, you can have them. I mean, they're not that sweet. Some people don't like it really, really sweet. So I'm gonna make another couple of batch. I think I'll take the top rack out at 10 and leave the bottom one in for 11. I'll come back when they're done. Okay, so these were on the top shelf. I took them out at 10 minutes. They're better, and the tops are not as brown. They could stay in a half a minute or whatever, but these are 11 minutes on the middle shelf. If you want to put one tray in at a time and just do 11 minutes, that's okay too.
Golden brown isn't the worst thing.
When the tops are really too brown. But these they're cooked. I like these better though. Nice shirt.
Yes, I got it at thewantedtees.com.
Okay, so I'm gonna finish baking all these cookies, and they probably make like 5 dozen, maybe a couple more, but basically this size will make 5 dozen cookies. And here he comes again.
Big Blue.
We don't like Tom Brady. He's a slow losing winner.
All right. Okay, so the cookies have cooled, and
One more. This one my son Luke designed. He's 8 years old. He came up with this. Thewantedtees.com. Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is 4 cups of confectionery sugar. I'm whisking it to get lumps out. You could sift it if you want, but after a little bit, it works itself out. I have a 1/4 cup of milk, almost had a 1/4 cup of milk. I'm gonna put it in here and mix it around, and you'll see what consistency. If you like a thinner consistency, you can add more milk, but go a little bit at a time, otherwise it'll get too loose. I'm gonna mix it up, and you can see I think I'm probably gonna need more milk. Sometimes I use heavy cream too, but it makes it, I might need that. It makes it a hell of a lot more fattening.
Getting it for you.
Okay, put another 1/4 cup in here. Okay, so that's a 1/2 cup. I think that should do it. And you can look at the consistency. See, it's getting icy. Just get all the lumps out, and then we're gonna dip the cookies in it. Yep, there you go. Get the lumps out. That should be enough. This made 5 dozen cookies. Actually made 5 dozen 2 cookies. But anyway, this is what I do. I dip the top like that. You let some of it drip off. Place them like that. Put some sprinkles on it. And that's it. That's your Anginetti, Taralles, whatever you want to call them. But they're delicious. I hope you give them a try. And don't forget to go to my website, The Wanted Tees, if you'd like to get a t-shirt or an apron or a cup. I have mugs there too. So until the next video, bon appetit.